Very good afternoon from Seth Bennett in for Liz Green today. Now, it's a Showbiz Monday. Born in Murfield, my guest today's made it all the way across the pond to Hollywood, where he's been regarded as the top entertainment reporter on the circuit, certainly one of them. He's interviewed everybody, pretty much. Beyonce to Kylie to Priscilla Presley. What a combination. He hasn't chatted just to the rich and famous, though, for a living. He's also appeared in musicals on Broadway. He sang on a Robson and Jerome hit. In fact, there are a few more things in the showbiz world that he hasn't yet lent his hand to, but maybe has ambitions to. We're going to be finding all about Neil Sean next. Neil Sean is here in conversation this afternoon. Neil, welcome.
Thank you so much. And listen, happy Yorkshire Day to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Are you a proud Yorkshireman?
Absolutely. Well, I got a free box of tea bags coming through the station, so I am now.
It doesn't take much.
We're easily bought, aren't we?
Tell me a little bit. First of all, you're choosing the music this afternoon. Yeah. Why that? If I never sing another song again.
Well, there's two sort of stories behind it, really. First of all, I think Matt Monro is a fantastic singer.
Yeah.
And he's got a very distinctive voice. And really, when I was auditioning and things for musicals, I used to always sing it because, my mum had sort of taught me it. And I thought, I know this one. But it's amazing, when you go for an audition, because forget the X Factor where you walk in and it's all very nice. In those days, you'd have to have sheet music. And sheet music was never in the key that you actually wanted to sing it. So then you'd have to ask the pianist, could you take it down or up? They didn't want to do it. And I remember auditioning for one place in London called the Cockney. I sang the song and this bloke, very queenly in this sort of stall, said, "Hopefully, dear." And I walked off to the sound and that was the end of the audition, and I thought, oh, that's the end of that then.
I guess you learn the hard way though, don't you?
Well, do you know, a lot of people ask you, don't they, how do you get on and what do you do? And it's like yourself. Here you are now, broadcasting on BBC Radio Leeds, and people think, oh, very glamorous job, and, how difficult is it? You've done it, but you know that it's a long path to get to this point, and you might dream it when you first started. A lot of people are very lucky in show business because they either have connections or they know people, and you come away and think, oh, right, that's how they got on. Other people are incredibly lucky and push it, or they get a good agent. I've had neither. My agents are rubbish. I've got 3 of them, so if you're listening, and you're not getting paid. And also, I think that, if it's a passion, it helps. If you really want to do something, I always really wanted to entertain. It was never a sort of plan ready to go into TV, particularly in American TV. But Americans are more embracing of ambition, and if you feel that, if they feel that you can do something, they will, open that. I think in England we're quite a closed shop. If you start out as a magician, you're forever a magician.
Yeah.
And you might try a bit of something else, but we're not really going to let you do that. So I've always thought of the opposite and thought, well, how could we embrace all corners? Because, as you know, in this job, as one door closes, they all close.
Take me back then. Take me back to the very, very beginning. Where are you from originally?
Murfield, which is, not that far away. And sat with me this afternoon, actually, is Anne Montini, who's otherwise known as Mom to me. Lovely lady. And they were a showbiz family. My dad is a comedian, and after dinner, very well known, actually, to BBC Radio Leeds audiences. My brother is a DJ, and sort of has his own radio station. We're all in it. So I think we were always in it. And how I got going, really, was I found posters with my dad and things in summer seasons, and very glamorous pictures of my mum, and thought, oh, that looks quite a nice life. And when, teachers at school are saying, if you don't buckle down, you'll and you think, I'm not doing that. I thought, there's got to be more to life than that. So it was tough getting going, but my very first break was in a church hall. And it was a show that my parents put together, and I came on and was Larry Grayson. So you can tell how long ago that was.
A while ago, yeah.
So, not that long ago, but it was a while. And I remember thinking, oh, I quite like this. I wonder how we can make a living out of this. So it was always like that,
How old were you then?
I think about 8 or 9. Something like that.
And you got the bug at that point. Were you somebody that was always a performer in the classroom,
No, very shy.
Really?
At school, yeah. Didn't really want to... I'm not one of these people that would get up in a room and say, and sing in a party. But if there's 500 people, that doesn't bother me. But 12 people, I find that quite daunting. So It's the opposite, really. And I think I'm writing a book at the moment, which is coming out next year, and I was looking at these letters, and Mum didn't realise this. I was writing off to like the Leeds Grand and the City Varieties, offering to run their summer seasons at 9-year-old.
Really?
Like I've got letters from these people. They must have thought, what's this kid doing? You know, it's like in coloured pen and stuff, saying, you don't need to find anybody else. I'm available for the entire season.
And would you have been able to execute at 9?
I think I would. Yeah, seriously. I think you've got to have a self-belief. I went for auditions for things like, do you remember Calendar Kids that used to be on? And that was like a talent show.
Yeah.
A mini X Factor, it was really. And there were things like Junior Star Time with Joe Longthorne and people like that. But it was very... I'm sure you got this. When we were kids and you watched things on TV... like Swap Shop and stuff, they never seemed to come to our area.
No.
And you didn't know anybody, how you could get on. And then you realise years later that the reason why Janet Ellis had Sophie on is because Sophie is her daughter.
Yeah. And
Sophie Ellis-Bextor got on telly because of her mother. And you think, oh, that's how they got on. So we really had no opportunity, I don't think. And so I was looking for incredible breakthroughs and angles, and so created them as I've always had to do myself. So, yeah, a bit of that, really.
When you were at school, was there any point where you were going to pursue anything else, or was it always going to be this?
I absolutely loathed school, and you know, I say that with a passion. I believe that you need education, but then again, thanks to my parents, I could read and write. I was very good at arithmetic, knew a box office inside out, so that wasn't a problem. And I felt personally that school, particularly in those times, if you were considered a bit thick, or you weren't in the sort of higher echelons and stuff, they didn't really bother with you. I mean, we had classes of 42 people in those days. I don't know how big they are now. But oddly enough, a couple of years ago, I got in touch with Kirklees and said, well, would you like to go back and talk about working in the media? Oddly enough, it hasn't changed. Nobody ever got back. So, you think, well, would I really want to go back to school? No, not really. So I think it's important. But I think it's more about confidence. I think you should instill in a child, what to do in a job interview. I mean, my first interview, was going to sell gas cookers for a job. And it had a panel, and it was like the X Factor. And this snotty woman in the middle said, well, what do you know about selling... I didn't even know how to turn a gas cooker on, I didn't know what it was like. So I said, well, of course, if you can do it, it can't be that hard, can it? And that was the end of that.
I could just imagine the look on her face at that point. What was your first job? What was the first job you managed to get employed in?
It was, awful, really. Now you describe it as a pound shop, but it was a company called Simon Stores, and they had things like Bradford, Dewsbury, all that sort of stuff. And it was literally like rags hanging off rails. I mean, it was appalling. And they had discount cosmetics and stuff like that. I mean, it was that bad that they had this shampoo, and it was 28p a bottle. I know this because I had to stack it. And when it split and it fell on the carpet, it left a mark. So you wondered what it did to your hair. You're like, ooh. And that was like, I got there, and I had this lovely brine nylon overall they gave me, and I just literally did the till and all that sort of stuff, but really was dreaming on how to get out of here and somehow get to London and make it work, because I thought I can't get in anywhere here. I went for panto auditions to Leeds and stuff like that. You just couldn't get in. I don't know what advice I give to somebody. I think, I'm not saying you should run off, but I really think you've got to think about, well, if they don't want me here, maybe I could crack it somewhere else.
What about fashion? Were you somebody that was into fashion? Have you got a whole bevy of bad haircuts and bad clothes?
I think I was influenced really at that time by... I always liked people like, 1940s film stars like Cary Grant and Gary Cooper. People who always looked smart and looked in control.
You're looking very smart today. You got the suit and shirt and tie.
Thank you. But you know what I mean? I always thought if you I was always instilled to me, if you look rich, people assume you're rich, and it slightly opens doors. I think if you go around looking, it always makes me laugh now, with these people who have these, say when you're interviewing a celebrity like, Cheryl Cole or something, you've got these names of tattoos on their hands, and you're thinking, it just looks naff, and in 5 years you're going to be really embarrassed, and in 20 years you're going to look like a concertina at the back of your neck because it'll all be crinkly, So I see it as that, really. And I think fashion, I did go through a phase of, I used to like people like Pete Burns, Dead or Alive, when they had the eye patch and the root perm. I did have a bit of that phase. Quickly dismissed that because it's not a good look trying to work in a shop in a smock, with eyeliner running everywhere.